this! Woohoo! I got this!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Pac-Man here, and I'm Blaze the Cat here. Woohoo! I am the one and only Homer Simpson. I can't believe it's my first time going to experiencing the video commentary of the Maxi Toys videos.
Yes, exactly, Homer. Anyway, I am the one and only Lola Bunny here, and we are from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, like what Homer did somehow mention about this earlier. Anyway, continue on.
Yeah, because today we're about to be presenting to you all the continuation of the Super Monkey Ball multiplayer mayhem videos, and this time we're going into Super Monkey Ball Jr. for the Game Boy Advance. And to begin with, we're about to get started with the first of the multiplayer mayhem shenanigans with the forms of this game in particular. We're going to be jumping into monkey bowling. So because of that, yeah, basically though, this is basically like the Game Boy Advance version of the most popular sports in terms of Super Monkey Ball franchises of all time, which is of course monkey bowling, based off from Super Monkey Ball 1 on the GameCube, but only now it's on a Game Boy Advance. So this means about the fact that while visually it looks very impressive for the time, so as you can see on screen, I'm going to be playing as Ai, and then meanwhile, when it comes to the other players, like Blaze the Cat and Lola Bunny, both of which are going to be playing as Mimi, and then finally for Homer Simpson, he's going to be playing as Gon Gon. So because of that though, yeah, we're about to get this game started, and as you can tell, I somehow suffered a bad start. Because let me tell you, it's been ages since we've last played Super Monkey Ball Jr., specifically the majority of the minigames section, because relatively speaking though, that I believe the last time we actually experienced Super Monkey Ball Jr. was back in 5 years ago, since I believe that somebody else has already done this Let's Play or something like that. Although, mind you though, it's been 5 years since we've last played this, that's for sure. But regardless of such though, now, as far as I'm aware, the control scheme for Monkey Bowling Jr. in this game plays very similar to the forms of how it does in the original version on the GameCube. The only difference is, obviously, we have less buttons to work with as opposed to the GameCube controller, because the thing is, with the GameCube controller, you do able to actually access to more buttons, like, you know, with X and Y and all that stuff, whilst in the Game Boy Advance systems, they obviously do have not only the A and B buttons, but in addition to the directional pad, start and select buttons, L and R buttons as well, and I believe that's as far as we can able to say in terms of the forms of some buttons for the Game Boy Advance system. So because of that, and yeah, as per expected, we'll go for 10 frames in that particular game session, because yes, just like the forms of how it does in the original Super Monkey Ball on the GameCube, that we're about to be going into the normal game. So because of that, only missing however though, is that there's no challenge mode on the forms of this game, because unlike Super Monkey Ball 1, that it does manage to have not only the normal game, but in addition to challenge mode as well. So that way we can able to actually try to see some different modes and all that stuff. Again, it's probably because of the Game Boy Advance's limitations, so because of that though, we can't expect able to actually guarantee to able to have jam-packed full of content here and there, but regardless of such though, it's about the fact that you pretty much get the idea of how this is going. So anyway, there's also worth noting for too, unfortunately though, unlike the forms of how it does it for Super Monkey Ball 1, as well as Super Monkey Ball 2, and Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, this game in particular does not contain monkey targets, because otherwise though, we were expecting we can able to actually make it happen, but unfortunately though that's not the case, because instead, all we got when it comes to Super Monkey Ball Jr., when it comes to minigames variety, which there are, one multiplayer exclusive, and then the other 3 were minigames that you can able to try to unlock by simply trying to able to spend on the party points, much like the forms of how it does it for both Super Monkey Ball 1 as well as Super Monkey Ball 2, both on the GameCube. So yeah, I guess that's remarkably similar, doesn't it? Although, if you couldn't tell already, I'm not doing that great on monkey bowling in this game specifically, plus it's mainly because the actual physics is a little bit weird sometimes, and not to mention though, from what I can gather, trying to get a strike sometimes is a bit ridiculously difficult compared to the forms of how it does on the console games, because relatively speaking, as you can tell, that Blaze did somehow manage to able to got the split formation when it comes to 4 of those pins. So as a result, yeah, it's a little bit tricky when it comes to able to try to get the split conversion when it comes to the forms to try knocking those pins down. I mean, still, like I said before, it's been 5 years since we last played this game, since 2020 in the lockdown year. So because of that, well, usually for the sake of time though, because we did somehow manage able to play for that particular game on, you know, the Game Boy player on our glorious Nintendo GameCube, so I digress. So, anyway, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 27th of November today, in some cases in 2025 today, and for those of you who lived in the UK, that tomorrow, Zootropolis 2 is going to be releasing tomorrow, and alongside with that, we just got 1 week left until Metroid Prime 4 Beyond for not only for Nintendo Switch, but in addition to the Nintendo Switch 2 version is going to be on its way. So because of that, we are finally getting very close until the release of the moment we've all been waiting for after 8 years since when it first been announced, since in E3 2017, at least that's what Mario and Sonic told me about this, and so much so, we're finally almost there to finally get a chance to play Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, specifically on the Switch 2 version, just because, you know, graphical fidelity, and not to mention though, for I can gather, it might able to actually improve upon the loading time speed, compared to the forms of how it does on the Switch 1 version, and not to mention though, that when it comes to aiming accuracy with all that shooting stuff and what have you, with mouse controls, is gonna be super recommendable in my opinion. I mean, we were expecting to try to able to get, you know, trying to buy the USB mouse accessory when it comes to, either for Switch 1, to be more specifically just able to try out Mario and Wario on the actual NSO subscription services, or Nintendo Switch Online subscription services, but either way, we'll think about something and doing that at some point in 2026 next year, so... Oh, and don't forget though, Pac-Man, we just literally got about 4 more days left until we're about to be approaching ourselves into the 12th and the final month in 2025. Oh yeah, exactly. Especially because considering for the fact that, well, at that point in time, that, relatively speaking, as far as I can definitely tell, that we might able to actually realize for the fact that we just got about a couple of weeks left until we're about to be approaching ourselves into the brand new year, 2026. Woohoo! That's gonna be exciting, especially noticeable because I am so excited to believe for the fact that there are more games coming out for it, especially noticeable that Bart Simpson keeps on and on and on. Huh? Oh wow, I'm genuinely impressed about your skills there, Lola Bunny. Well, thank you. Especially noticeable because I haven't exactly experienced bowling in my life, but I know for the fact I'm always very good when it comes to basketball and stuff like that. Oh, because let me guess, inspiration from not only Space Jam, but in addition to Space Jam and New Legacy. Yeah, that's probably true, despite the fact that, well, usually what I understand about the fact that some fans out there always appreciate the first film a little bit more, just because of the, you know, my first ever appearance was actually back in 1996, which as a result, yeah, you pretty much get the idea of how this is going to turn out to be, so... Yeah, anyway though, the next thing I want to point out too is that, well, here's the thing though, right, that at this point in time, I think we just got about, if I can recall correctly, well I may be wrong, we've got about 2 weeks left until specifically the Game Awards is about to start until specifically the 11th of December in any other time zones, whilst compared to the UK country, has to wait until specifically in midnight. So because of that though, don't expect things too much in regards to the forms of likely, for instance though, that every time whenever we, I just realized about something, when I somehow managed able to actually suddenly woken up in one of those nights, back in the forms been about a couple of years back, like for instance though, with, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, respectively, that every time whenever I did somehow get out of bed out of nowhere, in a certain amount of time, while the Game Awards notifications pops up, it just makes me feel like getting hyped and all that stuff, for able to try to prepare for the new year, for the likes of been, you know, the future years to come. And I understand about the forms of the hype is about to build up and stuff like that, but regardless of such though, it's about the fact it gets like a deja vu moment where, well, It's hard for me to explain, but either way.
Oh, you were so close there, Lola, to able to actually get the split spear. Yeah, that's what I thought, especially noticeable because, like when Pac-Man has already mentioned about this before, the gain of strikes in this game, to me though, or to us, is actually a lot difficult as it seems. Especially noticeable, you have to rely on the forms that spin technique, much like the forms of how it does it for, not just Super Monkey Ball 1, but in addition to Super Monkey Ball 2, as well as Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, and not to mention though, there's also the likes of, let's just say Super Monkey Ball Touch and Roll, and on top of that, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz on the Wii version specifically. And not only that though, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, because even then though, that spin is usually required if you really desperately want able to go after the strikes and what have you. So because of that though, although, fundamentally speaking though, for the sake of time though, is that the actual environment, if you couldn't tell, this is obviously based off from Super Monkey Ball 1 with all that particular castle building in the background. So because of that though, and also with the forms that particular, well, you get the idea for all that visual presentation, so, but on the Game Boy Advance conversion, so either way.
Yeah, I was expecting for that point. Oh, and by the way, guys, did you manage to able to actually buy a whole bunch of mince pies? Straight to the point though, Homer. We did somehow did, but here's the catch though, Homer. Don't eat them until the 1st of December. I know you can't help it for all that hunger and everything, but regardless of such though, rules are rules, I'm afraid. Oh, dang it, I somehow got gutted. So yeah, if you get missed just like that, then obviously though, the G letter will show up for specifically gutter, or was it? I don't know. I mean, again, mind you though, it's been 5 years since we've last played this game, so... Ooh, dang, you were so close to get a strike again though, Lola. Well, I was assuming so, but that's mainly because, well, I couldn't exactly get the timing going with that ridiculously fast aiming reticle right there from the start. Although, unless it's something like, if you play as Baby or something like that, your aiming, thing gets a bit slower, whilst compared to Ai, Mimi, and Gon always attempts to have the faster aiming reticle timing, so... Ooh, I think I was so close to able to get myself a glorious strike, but I was off by 1 pin left, so... Oh well, no big deal. Sorry, just for fun, really, so... In fact, it kind of thinks about it though, Pac-Man, is that, relatively speaking, is that it's been like, 2 years since that, not only Jewel, but in addition to Blossom, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Starlight Glimmer, that they both managed able to actually experience Super Monkey Ball 1 variation of monkey balling, doesn't it? Oh yeah, time really does fly, doesn't it? Especially noticeable about the fact that back in Evolves have been, let's just say, for instance, though, back in 2016, 2017, and, also 2020 and 2021, we didn't do that much in terms of the Evolves the Multiplayer Mayhem videos, because all we really got back then was not only a bad version of Super Monkey Ball Monkey Target videos within 2 parts, because I will have to admit it though, while looking back on these videos, even to this day, we did somehow got a couple of dislikes. Specifically, the first part of Monkey Target, part 1 specifically, was mainly because no matter what though, is that we somehow ended up got 4 dislikes and no likes alike. Well, I totally get it because it was now dated compared to the forms of how it does it for the updated version since 2023. So because of that though, I can possibly understand why for the fact that older videos starts to get a little bit more outdated these days. In regards of everything else though, with all that quality and also the commentary gets awfully quiet, so you can't really judge about the forms of not only the commentary, but in addition to that though, the actual game audio too, so... And another example being Monkey Golf within 3 parts and a singular part of Monkey Bowling, which pretty much has the exact same issues as the forms of Monkey Target within both part 1 and part 2 with all that, very, very awfully quiet commentary, and not only that though, like you said earlier,
you know, the game audio was actually almost felt a bit too quiet as well. Although, relatively speaking, I was about the fact I've also realized that could be also applies for not only the old versions of Wii Sports Bowling, but in addition to Wii Sports Golf, and finally, most notably though, Super Monkey Ball Monkey Billiards party game. So because of that though, yeah, I might able to actually try to ask not only Bugs Bunny, but you, Lola Bunny, to think about something. Oh, will I? Well, I suppose so, because after all, that both you and Bugs Bunny are in love, of course, so as a result, I'm just a little bit too concerning, that's for sure, if you're probably wondering. Oh, I suppose I might ask Bugs for that, but regardless of such though, I'll think about it.
Alright, time to get my glorious strike. Oh, so close. And I was off by 1 pin just to try to get that particular strike.
Also, I just realized that we've almost nearly at the end, aren't we?
Well, considering for the fact that obviously though, for the fact that most of these animations goes by a lot faster and quick, compared to the forms of how it does on the console versions. Likely, for instance, though, with Super Monkey Ball 2, and Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. So as a result, though, for the fact that because it's on the Game Boy Advance, this means going into the actual party game like this goes by a lot zoomily fast and all that stuff. And would you look at that, Lola is actually doing pretty well right there.
Because yeah, as you can definitely tell, I am player number 4.
And then meanwhile I was player number 1, and then Blaze the Cat was player number 2, and finally Homer was player 3. So as a result, just to make sure for the fact that we are on exactly the correct color palettes with all that particular, well, you get the idea with how many players there are, so...
Although, kind of thinking about it though, there is that one particular mini-game which appears to be Monkey Fight. That only requires a Game Boy Advance cable link in order to able to actually access to Monkey Fight in a multiplayer department.
And this could be also applies for Monkey Duel, which is basically like the equivalent to competition mode from Super Monkey Ball 1, but the biggest difference is this time around is that obviously that is only for 1 to 2 players specifically, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, regardless of such though, it's about the fact that at least luckily though, between both Monkey Bowling and Monkey Golf as well, these can be playable if you do manage to share the Game Boy Advance. Specifically, one Game Boy Advance specifically. Just like the forms of how it does, you can share one GameCube controller in addition to a DualShock 2 controller and the Xbox controller. Within some minigames you can play in, you know, Super Monkey Ball 1, Super Monkey Ball 2, as well as Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, but not so much Banana Mania. But that's mainly because, obviously, though, we now need to acquire individual controllers in order to be able to experience multiplayer, rather than just having only one. So because of that, I understand about the forms of how the fact that, well, obviously, though, multiplayer can be pretty enjoyable and fun at times, when it comes to more specifically, depending on what minigames you're only going to be experiencing with, but still.
Okay, so it's now my turn, so let's see if I can get that last pin in, and hopefully I'm also guaranteed to get myself my next sphere. And so much so, I have done it.
I get the feeling that Lola Bunny was actually in the lead right now, because aside from all that stuff though, despite I did mess up sometimes, with all that particular gutter and everything, but until tomorrow either way, things gets a little bit more interesting, which I'll get into more details about that if we get to that point. So, oh wow, I got myself my glorious strike, so how about that for my awesome skills?
Well, good for you though, Pac-Man, but either way. Now it's my turn now, so let's see if I can guarantee to get myself a strike for this angle, or if not, then... Oh, you kidding me? I was off by 1! Okay, whatever.
Also, I just realized about something is that I love the fact that they somehow bring up a realism logo if the actual pins get shoved over, because as we expected, not only this game has been made by...
Oh, you son of a biscuit! That stupid pin just refused to get knocked over!
Oh jeez, talk about deja vu from my experience if I somehow keep on using my swear jar or something. Oh, close, but I don't mind taking a 7. And also, kind of thinking about it though, I'm pretty sure Baby was not selected in this particular video, by the way, because unlike the forms of how it does it on, well, most aspects when it comes to in the past, specifically, Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, if I can recall, that I do believe that Manaphy did somehow choose Baby in not one, but 3 minigames in particular, such as, you know, Monkey Golf DX, and Monkey Bowling DX, and finally Monkey Target DX. So, are you kidding me? Lola was actually, oh my goodness, what is going on with her?
Well, let's just say to you something there. Don't ever call me dull.
Well, you only attempt to say that for the sake of the forms if someone insults you for calling that specific name. Oh wow, check it out! I got myself yet another strike, which means I've now reached a double, so how about that? Although I highly doubt if we're able to try to reach ourselves for about a maximum of 300 points with all that particular perfect game. But regardless of such though, it's just for a nice little coincidence we're able to try something new. When it comes to more specifically, you know, different games and all that stuff, so... Anyway, so now I just need to get my glorious, I don't mind about not only 3, but in addition to 5, making a total of 8, so... In fact, kind of thinking about it though, we're now on to the 10th and the final frame, basically, so, yeah, on to you, Blaze. Oh, you joking, it's always a split formation that I'm always, you know, not great at it though at first, but, I might as well give it a shot, I suppose. That's incredibly off right there, and, oh, so much for getting the, one last go. If I do get spared though, then obviously though I can guarantee to get 3 turns on that particular frame. Alright, now it's my turn now for the final frame, here I go. Oh, close, I don't mind taking a 7 again.
Good luck for trying to get the last 3 pins, by the way, Homer.
Oh, thanks, Lola. I think that does the trick. And boom! Haha! In your face there, 3 pins!
So since you got a spare, you got 1 last go. So because of that, are you up for trying to get the strike?
Well, I certainly hope so. And... oh, close, but I don't mind taking an 8.
Not bad for you, Homer.
And now on to Lola Bunny, so what's she gonna do? I mean, after all though, she basically thrashed us, basically.
Yeah, I'm very curious to know how many points that I might consider having. I mean, mind you though, I was so close to get a strike, but I don't mind about it too much because I'm gonna be going for a glorious spare.
Oh, I see why you're trying to do that. You're trying to spin a little bit, and as a result, yep, sure enough, you got your last throw.
See, I told you I'm pretty good at this.
Despite with the forms of, you know, less buttons to work with, but hey, at least you did really well at this.
And I end up with a 6, so, oh well, no big deal though.
But yeah, let's check out the results. So, yeah, the results are pretty interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly, Pac-Man.
In fact, I somehow got 132 pins knocked out.
And then meanwhile for me, I only got 93.
And then meanwhile for me, I somehow got 122 pins knocked out.
And I'm the true winner because I somehow got 158 pins knocked out. So, yeah, I'm the true winner, you know?
Yeah, congratulations to you, Lola Bunny, for able to, you know, came first place in Monkey Bowling in Super Monkey Ball Jr. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun, don't you think?
Well, except with that very stingy pin that it refused to get knocked down at one point on my front, but, oh well, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose.
So yeah, that pretty much does it for Super Monkey Ball Jr. version of Monkey Bowling. So yeah, that was actually pretty fun. And yeah, we'll stay tuned for tomorrow's video, which I suppose no matter what though, time will definitely tell. So we'll see you guys, and join at some point until tomorrow.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun. Later, fellas.